Welcome back to another episode of Highlighting Canadian Music. This episode, I want to talk about a legend in the Toronto rap scene. Growing up in Toronto, you might have heard of the Baby Blue Sound Crew. The thing about the Baby Blue Sound Crew is they were operating as an independent label at a time when that wasn't a normal thing. They structured their own thing, they put their money together, they start their own label, and this thing becomes the biggest thing in Toronto and one of the biggest things out of Canada in general. In 1998, there was a B-side to a record that was dropped, and the B-side was called Flagrant by Choclair. And then comes Let's Ride, which is widely believed to be produced by Socrates, but it's actually produced by Kardinal Offishall. This guy is a 4-time Juno winner, several accolades, several awards. When I actually had a chance to meet and sit down with this guy, he gave me so much game, man. With no further ado, Toronto's own Mr. Chisnock, Choclair. That's right. That's Socrates on that beat, right?
Actually, it's Cardi on the beat.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, like, you know, it's funny. Like the story with that track was, oh man, this is like going back to like late '96. I remember sitting in my whip, which was a Pontiac 6000, which is why when you hear me say in Northern Touch, you'll hear people, like, I'll be like, when you see the 6 triple low wheels start to feel, people are like, no, it's a Mercedes 600. I'm like, no, it was a Pontiac 6000. That's what we were all rolling in.
Oh, okay.
And I was in the driver's seat, and Sox was in the passenger seat, and Cardi was coming in through the side window, and then we were listening to beats, and Let's Ride beat came up, and he said to me, he's like, oh, yo, do you think you can run this? It's kind of quick. And I was like, yeah, of course, man, I can do that. And then he said, yo, Sox, are you going to be there when he does it? And Sox was like, yeah, well, at that point, we were always at everybody's studio session, right? Because we just kind of hung out and every stuff. And then I went and I did it, and Sox was there, and we did that in like '97, and that's why Sox was on the beginning, because we liked the beginning and how long it ran. And we were like, well, we can't just let the music play for so long. Yeah. So that's why then Sox had his speech at the beginning. And yeah, man, and then that's kind of how it came together. And, you know, and then we sat on that till '99. Wow. Because when I signed, after Northern Touch came out, and then I signed with Virgin in June of '98, the people at Virgin, the guy, his name is Russ Hergert, he was the one who actually got me signed to the label. He said, I don't care what songs you put out, but let me make sure that we do this Let's Ride joint proper. And then so we sat on it until September of '99. And that's
what did he mean by proper? Like
proper budget, proper video, proper, you know, like just so it will come out, you know, like good. So you know, it would give a good representation. So yeah, and then that's it. But yeah, that's how Let's Ride kind of came together. It was almost like a challenge from Cardi.
Wow, that's dope. And then the video, were you actually sitting on the back of that bike while it was moving like that?
I was actually sitting on the back of the bike, and the craziest thing about it was that I had never been on a bike before.
Wow. So how did you hold your balance like that? Were you strapped in or something?
Well, they didn't strap me in, but they literally just said, just hold on. And then I had this female stunt bike rider that was on the front. Yeah. And she said, don't worry, I won't let you fall. I said, well, I might wobble and make you fall. She's like, nobody makes me fall. Oh, okay. and so I just kind of had to just, just kind of keep my composure and stay on the back of the bike, which was crazy. Then we did a couple of test rides, right? You know, like maybe like a week before we were going to do it and everything like that. So we did a couple of, practice sitting on the bikes and whatever. And then, but then the day of, it was like, we're doing it for real. And I just had to make sure I didn't go and fall.
That's dope. That came out looking nice, man. So the budget for that was obviously there. So Virgin put up the budget for that video too, eh?
Yeah, Virgin put the budget up for that, and I'm pretty sure that when it was happening, everybody was scratching their head. But I think when they saw the final results and then what it did, I think at the time, I think we ran like 28, almost like 34 weeks on the charts as much, and it was at that point then people were like, yeah, okay, well, it was worth it. But I'm sure there was a bunch of people scratching their head, but why are we spending so much on this video?
Yeah, exactly. But it turned out nice. Like, at this point, when you did the Let's Ride video, did Cardi drop at this point, or were you the first one out of the Circle fam to kind of?
Well, we were kind of all doing it at the same time, because at that point, Cardi still had On With The Show and
but
Let's
Ride came before Old Time Killin' though, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was like the first one of the big bus, I guess, Okay. But at that point, everybody was kind of doing something at that point. Like, it wasn't like I didn't usher in everybody, although maybe some people might take it that way, but it wasn't really like I was that person.
Yeah, no, you were all grinding, just throwing something out, and whatever stuck.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, I guess as far as like big marketing and everything like that, that was the one right there.
Nice. So, okay, I kind of heard something about the Circle fam. I heard that you guys were kind of doing an independent thing, where you guys were putting your own money up behind each other, like.
Yeah, we've been doing it, and like one of the things like with my my history stuff is like, see, like when I first started, I came up first knowing Socks.
Yeah.
Back in like '93, and he used to pick me up in his '89 Mustang, and we used to just go. And at that point, I met him through a friend of mine at we went to high school together, and my friend Ramon Charles. And he introduced me to Socks. So when we first met, it was like, all right, okay, I hear you do beats, because he had Still Caught Up, and what was the other song? What was all the songs called? Man, it's so long ago. It's Still Caught Up and Tuesday and all these different songs. And so it was like it was straight business at that point. But then we just kind of became really cool. And then through him, I met Cardi and Anthem and Wylook and everybody else. And then I met Day, who became my manager at that point. And I remember one time we were sitting there, and then we were like, like we were trying to get signed and do whatever, and everybody, we were just like, we should just do it ourselves, like, because you got to know somebody to get something going on. And then the guy, and he was the engineer at the studio, and then he called me the next day, and he's like, well, did you really mean what you were saying? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And then we started Knee Deep Records. And then with Knee Deep Records, then we had to figure out, well, what are we doing? And we came up with a song. Well, Socks came up with his song Father Time, and then that they produced. And then we were like, back then you need a B-side, so we were like, okay, well, what's going to be the B-side? And I was like, I don't know. And then I made 21 Years.
Nice.
And then we were like, okay. And then that song ended up doing what it did. Like, it went really well and huge and everything. And then we're like, well, if we're a record company, like, what are we doing next? And I was like, I don't know. And then we came up with What It Takes, and that's when I first met Julie Black.
Nice.
We came up with What It Takes, and I did Just a Second, and then we did the EP for that, and then because we just needed another record. We were like, we're a record company, we need records.
Yeah.
And we did that, and then lo and behold, What It Takes went on to do whatever, and then that was my very first Juno. Like, it just kind of happened that way. It was just
nice.
We just believed in music and everything, and it just ended up being that way.
Nice. I noticed in the What It Takes video, you shot at that same docks location that we ended up shooting at for the Tam video years later.
Yeah. We did it
location.
There. It is, yeah. It's almost so popular now, like, people don't want to shoot there anymore, because they're like, okay, we know where that is.
Yeah.
Because you get a nice look at the skyline and everything.
Yeah,
and,
but you had it early on. I noticed that. I was like, yeah, that's the same skyline.
Yeah, man. And, and the good thing about that, too, is that was Lil X's first video, because before that, he was coming from working with Hype Williams, because he was down with Cardi and everybody like that, and he was working with Hype Williams. And then when he came back to Toronto, everybody, they were trying to do something, and they all had like, they all wanted whatever the best video directors that was on the thing.
Yeah,
I forget what we're looking for. And then, so nobody was kind of giving them a chance, and we were like, oh, okay, yeah, let's okay, X, because we knew him, and then we were like, let's do it. So that became his first video.
Wow.
And then he returned the favor to doing Let's Ride back then.
Nice. And did he do any more of your videos?
Just he wanted to do rubbing, but X budget's high. So after Let's Ride, they're like, well, we should go a little bit lighter on this next one.
Okay, so before it was called The Six, it was called T-Dot for a long time, and I wanted to know, because I started calling it that because of you and Kardinal listening to them records. Did you guys start that name, and which one of you guys came up with that first?
There was a guy, his name was K-Force. We'll just take a look and see what's wrong. There was a guy named K-Force. He kind of came up with it. And then Sox kind of started saying it. And then I guess because I said it at the end of Northern Touch, everybody kind of associated it with me.
Yeah.
And pretty much it was just about when when you look at Toronto, like the way they used to do it, it would be a T and a period and an O and a period. So we just like T.O. and then they're just whatever. And then that's kind of like been our thing. And then I remember when I realized that it really caught on was when I was watching, like, sports channel, like TSN, and then someone's like, yes, and in the T-Dot, and I was like, oh, these guys know what's up.
That's crazy.
And then I was like, okay, it's really catching on, and then that's kind of like when it kind of really blew up. But I didn't come up with the name, but I guess through me,
you guys helped popularize that name for sure.
Yeah, because we were definitely we pushed it very hard. Yeah, man.
Okay, so Flagrant now. What year was Flagrant?
Flagrant was the winter of '98.
98.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, is like Russ at Virgin. Windex. Sorry. Yeah. So Russ at Virgin was like he was saying is. You can put anything out, but don't put out Let's Ride.
Yeah. So
then, no, I think that's it. And then so I was like, all right. So then me and Sox, we came up with this track, Flagrant. And at that point, it was like a lot of times at that point, because my name was kind of really starting to bubble a little bit. But then in Toronto, a little bit at that point, people were kind of like, oh, we're East End, West End, and, Scarborough and Rexdale and whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people were kind of like, whatever, and not hating because they didn't think I was good or not, but hating because I was from the other side of town.
Yeah.
And so Sox was like, yo, let's just go at these guys. And then we came up with Flagrant. And that's just, some people, they'll go and they'll hear it and they'll be like, how come that record's so angry? And I was like, well, it's not angry, but, we just had to... Yeah, we just had to go and make a statement.
The popular line on there is where you say, wherever I move, eyes glued.
Right, because, and then that was like a true statement, because at that point it was like, wherever I was going, like people would check. And so we made that, and then Sox did that. And then that one, to our great surprise, like it became like an underground hip hop. Like people were vibing off 21 Years at first, and the thing is that at that point, I remember, and I specifically remember listening to 88.1, and some guy called into the radio station. No, I don't need any. And somebody called into the radio station, and they were like, we really like that Father Time joint. But because I was actually listening to the radio when he said it, he goes, but you guys really need to check that B-side. And I remember DJ X was like, you know what? Yeah, we really should be checking the B-side. The B-side is actually pretty tight. Mm-hmm. And then they started playing, that's when they started playing 21 Years. So then 21 Years, and then DJ Premier picked it up and whatever was going on and whatever. And then Flagrant came. So then people were running off of 21 Years and What It Takes and a couple other like little records that I was put out, whatever. But then Flagrant dropped, and everybody was like, "Whoa, okay, what is this?" And then but that was a Sox creation, because he was definitely, he pretty much directed how that should run. As far as like I wrote the lyrics, but he was like, he made the chorus and he made all these other things, and then once we had the lyrics done, and then he just kind of really started spicing it up afterwards. So, nice. But Flagrant was was both of our creation, but I think it was he definitely was like, yo, yeah, let's do this and let's shut people up type thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, on that note, how crucial would you say Socrates was to your sound? Because he was involved in a lot of your, like, I don't know about the early sounds, but I noticed later on, like when you started to pop, I noticed he was a very, very engraved in a lot of your sound. Like,
oh well, you know what? A lot of people will say this. A lot of people they say, you know, when you and Sox get together, like you guys like the type of music you made, because he made a lot of like. He was involved in a lot of big songs that I've done, like from Flagrant, from Rubbin', from Light It Up, from Skunk, from Mach 4, you know, from Skyline, like, you know, like, so like he was involved in a lot of stuff, and it's kind of like the whisper in the wind right now is a lot of people like, yo, what's up with you and Sox? Like, you guys.
And I say that just because I think the relationship between an artist and a producer is so lost nowadays. But when I go back and I look at how it was back in the day, you got such quality records because artists would always stick with a certain producer.
Yeah, like we still definitely, and we're still working on music together right now, you know, and stuff. It's just stuff that people haven't heard, but yeah, it was, yeah, we have a really tight connection because, again, like we go all the way back, like, you know, like out of everybody, like the whole circle and everything. That was the guy that I met.
Yeah, first.
And it was all the fact that we became cool, and and then how I ended up meeting everybody else just because we started connecting. And so we have like 20 plus years of like knowing each other and vibing with each other and stuff. And so we're still working. You guys just haven't heard some of the stuff that we've done yet.
Nice. So, Knee Deep Records is popping. Like, so what are you guys doing now after you dropped 21 Years and you came back? And what's happening now with Knee Deep, if you can remember?
Well, Knee Deep at this point, we were a record company. We put out like 15 records on our own. So we put out first Cardi records, first Sox records, or well, maybe his second, one of his biggest records, Marvel, Solitaire, Julie Black, Danny O, Why Look, like we put out like so many records, and that was kind of our claim to fame, was that that we were like I said, we just ended up starting a record company.
Yeah.
And then we did that, and then but then now it's kind of like gone right now. Like we're, you know, like Knee Deep, we closed it down. We opened up Greenhouse, and then we opened up Greenhouse, and then now we're like, you know. But that was like our birth. That was our birth. Like it's funny because I met somebody who met Day, who was my manager and my business partner at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You remember Day?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Go look at my old 21 Years record and What It Takes record. You'll see his name on the whole. Like it says Day right on the record.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know that was a great time. And it's not. I don't use Knee Deep anymore or Greenhouse. I kind of use a different moniker now. Like I go. It's more of a behind the scenes business company called now like Blake Biz Incorporated or BBI or BBE, because it's also Blake Biz Entertainment. So there's two of them. But I don't. But yeah, like with Knee Deep, that was the birth of everything. Like we literally really like that was the birth of every single thing that was happening at that point.
Yeah, no, and it's just to think about something small that you guys started that turned out to be huge for all of you guys. Like Sox went on to, is he still signed with Redman?
I don't believe so, but like we're still cool with him because whenever he's in town, we always line up. Like Corrupt, when he comes to town, we line up. When Red or Meth is in town, we line up. Like so, it's like we're still all very cool. I don't know if he's still with Gilla House or not, but we're all good. Like we're all like all of us are good.
That's dope. Okay, so speaking of Corrupt and Sox, so the Skunk record now. How did that come about? Like, were you guys just chilling and you decided to make a record? Like,
well, the way it kind of came about, like it was more of like a record company kind of connection at first.
Yeah.
Because the record company reached out to the record company, but I always liked Corrupt. I've been a huge Corrupt fan.
Oh yeah, he was one of my favorites from the West Coast.
Yeah, from like the early outs, I was a big fan of his, and then so they made it happen, and then I went out and actually we recorded it on 9/11. I flew out to LA, and then I remember I was in my hotel room and Sox was in his hotel room, and then Sox calls me on my phone, in the hotel phone, just the water, please. He calls me on the phone, and then he's like, "Yo, are you looking on the TV right now? It's like a movie." And I was like, "What happened?" So I turn on the TV, and then obviously, 9/11's happening.
Yeah.
So then I'm calling everybody because I'm like, okay, well, do you still want to do this? Like, because I see what's going on. Like, some massive stuff is happening right now in your country. And he was like, no, let's keep doing it. And then that's why when you hear Corrupt Verse,
right off, he says, "Niggas tried to bomb my trade center."
Yeah.
That was a big record, yo. When I heard that line, I said, "Yo, that was crazy." Even just considering that happened in New York, and he's from the West Coast, so it showed how impactful that was on the whole USA. And then that he wanted to say it on that record at that time, I was like, "Yo, that's deep." Like,
yeah, and exactly it was that, and then, like it was big, and then me and Sox, and we were stuck in LA for, I guess however long it was that we were stuck there, and then for like a week or something like that. And then we ended up coming back home, and then people really loved the record, and then they were like, okay, well then what we should do is let's go and do a video. And then we flew Eastwood, which was his boy that came out, and then Corrupt, and they flew out to Toronto, and it was one of the easiest video shoots because it was like, I remember getting on set at like 6 a.m, and this guy had like a big, I don't know, like $60, like the 60 ounce or whatever you call it, bottle of Henny, and it was cracked, and a bottle of something, and then just blunts everywhere, and it was like, this is at 6.
That's dope.
So at that point, the day just kind of went by, no problems. It was one of the happiest video shoots I've ever done.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's cool. Like, and then again, when he comes into town, he's like, "Yo," and he'll hit me up. He'll be like, "Yo, my homie Shax, what's up?"
Nice. There was no issues getting him across the border or nothing like that?
Not that I know of. There could have been some behind the scenes, but not that I know of. He was there a day early. I guess they brought him out a day early just in case there was an issue. Mm-hmm. But nope, he just came, and he was good to go.
Nice. And you still have a relationship with him to this day?
Yeah, the last time he was here, he came out to like Oshawa, and then I went in. We linked up, and then whatever. Like, we're still good. And even like I saw like maybe about a month or two ago, he was on some radio station in England, and he was talking about the homies on the radio station. He's like, "Yeah, big up my boy Choclair, big up Socrates, big up." A whole bunch of other people. So, like we good. We're good. Even with Snoop, like I haven't done a song with him, but like, we like, I've been on the road with Snoop. I've been to his house. We're good, and it's good because when you're fans of these guys' music and you can be chill with them, it's like almost unimaginable to an extent, like where it's like, I'm actually cool with these guys,
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, bro. It was just coming out of this. Can you imagine like a store like Loblaws where you go and you spend money to go grocery shop and they still charge you for parking? Like, what the hell is that?
Since when?
I don't know. Since right now, I'm like, they're like $3, and I'm like, well, it's not much, right? But I'm like, well, I don't have change.
That was a thing, yo. What?
Yeah, like it's an annoyance more than it's a problem, right? But it's
just arms, so you can't just do that. That's what
yeah, I'm like, I just went and spent money in this shop, and you're still gonna charge me for parking? Like, come on, man, what is that? Like, who's charging for parking? Well, I don't know.
I'm giving you guys money.
Yeah. More of annoyance than anything. But yeah, man. Sorry, I forgot where we cut out because my phone cut out on you.
I was just asking you if you heard what Snoop said about that video that Snoop did about Trump. Did you see that?
Yeah, and then Trump is all that. That's why he's like, I don't even know what he's doing. Like, you have way too much time on your hands. You argue with little things, and you're running a big country, man.
Like Snoop's net worth is 145 million. I don't think that's a failing career.
Exactly, and then that's why you can't really believe what this guy says, because he's almost like a teenager, almost like the way he talks.
He's toxic, bro.
Yeah, I just kind of, you know what, and that just boosts that. When Trump did that just boosts Snoop stock.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
everybody's kind of, people are just like, yo, what up, Snoop? Yeah, like, and that song, like, it's a good song, but, it's not one of his biggest songs, you know what I mean? But, like, now everybody's going to check that. Like, that video is going to fly out now.
I think it was a really dope track.
Yeah, well, okay, you know what? And then now everybody's going to check it because they're like, what track is Donald Trump talking about?
Yeah,
and then it's like, everybody now is going to go look for that. And I think it's from people up here, too, isn't it? He like a feature on somebody from up here. I don't know if it was his track, but it was, or he was featured on a track.
I didn't. No. I think it was his. It might have been the beat.
Maybe the beat, because I read I read from somewhere that it was some guys from up here. So maybe it was their production or something like that. So then that's even great because this track is getting so much talk, and Donald Trump just kind of looks like a fool. Like, like really you're going to talk about rap music? Like he even had a problem. I remember when Blackish came out and he was like, Blackish, what is that? What if we had a show called Whitish? It was like, no, well, most of the shows on TV are Whitish.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you talking about? And Blackish, I won, it won awards here, there, and the other, and like, yo, bro, you're like Archie Bunker. You're 70 years old.
Yeah, I love Blackish. That's a dope show, yeah.
Yeah, it's dope. I watch it all the time, and when I miss it, I catch up on the demand channel. So I stay connected with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll try to wrap up quick, and I want to talk about rubbing, because I remember you told me years ago about some sample issues you had with that, and I can't remember the exact story, but you said it almost held the whole project from coming out.
Yeah, well, Rubbin' was the last track that I recorded for the record, and Fox had this horn, that little horn stab.
Mm-hmm.
That was the sample, and at that point, sampling was was a big issue for everybody. It was like, oh, well, samples and this, that, and the other. So the guy, I don't remember who it was that owned the sample or whatever. The guy wanted like $20,000 for that horn stab.
Wow.
And we loved the record. But then at this point, we're at the end of the recording process, and after we're doing this, we put aside money for the video, all this other stuff, flying to LA, back and forth, all this other stuff. Virgin was like, we really don't have the money to go and do this, and I was like, oh man. And then I guess when we turned him down, we really can't. We can't pay $20,000 for this video, for that sample.
Yeah.
It was like he became cool. He was like, all right, just give me $1,000.
Wow.
I was like, how do you drop $19,000 like that? Like,
wow.
But he did, and it was great because then that, Rubbin' is the song that it is, and but it almost didn't make the record because it was the very last record that we recorded. Our record was done, and it was like, hey, check this out, and they're like, yeah, we like it. Okay, so what do we got to do? And then the sample situation came up, and but yeah, we were able to get by that. And,
so how did that even work? Did Sox bring it up that there was a sample in it, or did the guy hear it and knew it was like?
Well, at that time it was more or less just, oh, okay, yeah, I got this dope beat, and we'll figure it out type thing. Like we weren't, we weren't thinking about how much a sample would cost or this, that, and the other. It was just like this, and here's the beat, and then I recorded on it, and then I presented it, and then they were like, we like it, and they were like, and then when we were getting all these.
Was it a Canadian artist or an American artist? Or?
I believe it was like an American artist.
Okay, wow.
And then and then all this other stuff went down, and then when we went to go and have to do all the clearance, because then the labels at that point, everybody was worried about sample clearances and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that came up, and then we were like, okay, and then that's when that whole story started to pop, and then but yeah, like it was just a good scenario that the guy dropped like $19,000 off of what he wanted, and the song, and then we were able to use the song, and it was so good, and that's one of the songs that everybody really remembers from me as well.
Yeah, it's funny because when a lot of people I mention it, they always say "Let's Ride," but my favorite song was "Rubbin'." That was. I just love the way that whole thing came together, and So what about that vocal sample on there with that chick? That wasn't. There was no problems with that.
That was just a friend of mine at the time.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, we just sampled the voice and everything, and the dopest thing is about that is that a lot of times, like even I did a show at the Rivoli about a week and a half ago, and even the people, because they're new singers that I'm working with, Josh and CL. Josh Clark and CL. And then when we were rehearsing, they're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting about all these songs." So like when they hear "Light It Up" and they hear "Skyline" and they hear this, like because they don't hear them all the time, but they're like, "Oh, I used to jam to these songs all the time." And
memories.
And it's and then that's part of like kind of what my thing with when I'm out. I'm like, okay, you guys, some I haven't been, maybe you haven't seen me in a while, but just reminding you. And then we drop in North Touch, we're dropping Love 'Em All, we're dropping Flagrant, we're dropping Skyline, we're dropping, and then everybody's like, wow, I forgot about you.
And it's a good feeling though, because it brings back, even just when I was right before the interview, I was just sitting there going through these videos. I'm like, holy shit, man, like, and that's high school days for me, and there's so many good memories behind them records, man. Like I said, even just the coining the name T-Dot, like before that we didn't really have a name, we were just Toronto. And we had our swag, and we, in my opinion, we were Canada's version of New York, but we didn't have a nickname. And then T-Dot came about, and then it was even more like, and those were good times for the whole like ghetto concept. Rascals are from Vancouver, but they were popping. Like it was just point blank. It was a good time to be an artist in Toronto.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And somebody shared a story with me the other day. He's from BC. Like he told me he's from a small town, and they used to have they used to have like bush parties. So they would just like go in the middle of the forest or the whatever you call it, and they were lost and they couldn't find the party, and then they remembered they were hearing rubbin, and they just followed the sound of rubbin to where the party was. And then he told me when he got married, he's like, that was the song that he walked out to on his marriage because that he met his wife at that party.
That's dope.
And like you say, it brings all these memories and whatever. It's like, sometimes I don't realize the impact or whatever because life just keeps moving and you just keep moving.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes when you get a chance to go and look back, you kind of, because you never really pause and look back. You're always on a forward movement. And when you get a chance and somebody shares a story with that, it's like, wow, okay, really? Like maybe at the time I was like, yeah, this record is banging right now. But you don't realize like when a record is banging to somebody, like the impact it might actually have
on their whole life. Yeah.
On their whole life, you know what I mean? So, and I enjoy the stories. Like I met this guy the other day. I was doing this show, and he was like, he's like, I met you back in 2001, and I asked you to sign a $100 bill for me. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I was like, oh, you must have spent that already, though. And then he's like, and then he pulls out this laminate with a $100 bill on it, and he's like, I want you to sign the other side.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, you never spent that. And he's like, crazy. Nah, man, this is, he goes, I'm going to sell it on eBay at some point. But and I was like, okay. But, like, so stuff like that, it that stuff impacts me because, yeah, man, like, at any point probably in his life, he may have needed that $100 bill, but he kept it, right?
Yeah.
Because it meant something.
Yeah, it meant something to him, yeah. That's
and so, stuff like that is cool to me. I find that, I do. When I get a chance to really actually look back, it does mean something to me, Mm-hmm. It really does.
You mentioned Love 'Em All with Mims. You guys were working with Mims early. That was before This Is Why I'm Hot, wasn't it?
That was before This Is While I'm Hot, yeah. Like, the first time I met Mims. It was a Baby Blue track for their album when they got signed to Universal, and with Money Jane and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then, it was pretty much like, Sharks, we got this artist from New York that we want you to work with, and it was Mims. And we were like, okay, well, let's do it. And then we went there to the studio, and then I recorded my verse, and he recorded his verse, and again, then that just became another one of those tracks, and it was like, wow, okay, like it just, things were just, just moving and moving, and it was great, like it was great, and then he came with This Is Why I'm Hot, and then everybody, oh, you don't know Mims, but then people up here and other places would be like, nah, Mims, we know Mims from that Choclair record.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, this is not his first time around, and whatever.
It was fun because when people used to be like, oh yeah, I just heard this guy Mims, I'm like, yeah, that guy's been working with Toronto artists, like.
Yeah, so so that was a coolness as well, as well.
Mhm. That's dope. And last, Light It Up, another one of my favorite joints. With Julie Black, Socrates, like that was who's that was for that video?
The video was all Mike Douglas, but the song I remember sucks. we would go into his house, and I used to go there and record all the time. And I remember he's like, I want to give you a Prince vibe, and that was his interpretation of a Prince vibe. And and then Julie just came, and she was like singing "Light It Up," and it was like it's just when we get together, and we got more music that just people haven't heard. But when we get together, it's just like we instantly know where each other's vibe is, and we just make music like that. And Julie fit so well. And in the video, what we did is we just went away to a cabin for like a weekend. And we just shot the video, and then had a legit party, and then just went and shot the video while we were up there, right? And then
was that Bishop there on the grill?
That is Bishop on the grill, yeah.
Was he actually grilling?
I don't believe so. I think the food was made already, and we just kind of mocked it. But the thing is, that song was originally supposed to be called BBQ Sundays because we always thought it was a summertime song, and it was just the timing, and we needed to go and get this music and whatever, and then we just turned this summertime vibe into something. You know what? It's because when I used to watch The Cosby Show, and Bill Cosby used to always be barbecuing in the winter.
Yeah, in the backyard,
in his backyard, and coming in with his big coat, grillings, whatever he's grilling.
That's true.
And then we were like, let's add some of that element into whatever. And then that's kind of how the video idea and everything came together.
Because was it supposed to be a summertime release? Because I know you say something about summertime on one of the verses.
It was supposed to be the release, we didn't count it on the summertime release, but it was a summertime song. And like when I'm saying stuff like jean shirts and tank tops, and stuff like that, it was a summertime song. But because of when it was and how whatever, and just like the timing of everything, we just tried to put the summer in the winter, and then that's why you hear Sock saying at the beginning, I'm like, yo, I'm having a barbecue, and he's like, yo, it's winter, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm at the chalet, and he's like, okay. And then we just tried to twist it,
Nice.
and that's how we ended up doing that.
That's a dope concept. Okay, lastly, I want to ask you some random questions. Pac or Biggie?
Which one?
It's a Tupac or Biggie?
It's hard, but go with Biggie.
Yeah.
I think it's an East Coast thing, but Biggie, he was a trendsetter and everything, and I have nothing against Tupac. I love Tupac, but Biggie was my dude.
Nice. Podcast or radio?
Both. I would say radio because podcasts, in a way, people got to know who you are to check your podcast or just come across you.
Yeah.
Radio, you're in the car and you're bored. Yeah. You just turn it on and then you might hear something.
Yeah. True. Digital or physical?
Well, man, these are good random questions. Physical because when you have it, like I still have physical copies of Father Time. I still have a physical vinyl of Ready to Die on vinyl, on CD and on cassette. I have, so like it brings you back into the time. So the physical copy, I think, is good. But digital is great because like you can get it whenever you need it.
Yeah.
But the physical aspect of it is just like when you have it, it's something people can't take from you. It's like, oh man, you got the vinyl of Stinking Prince's Purple Rain, and it's like, yep.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And now a lot of it's going to it's becoming even less physical because we got the streaming, so people don't even want to have the actual songs on their phone anymore. They just go right on Spotify or wherever. And
exactly, yeah. So
I like to look at the album covers and
and read the back, read the credits. When we used to read who the producer was, where it was recorded.
Yeah, nowadays you gotta Google that shit. I used to because I'm weird. I look at all the credits and all the special thank yous and everything.
Yeah, and the thank yous used to be like, oh, big up to Premiere, and you're like, oh, he knows Premiere, and oh, he knows this guy, and he's thanking that guy. So it was a big deal, so physical for me, just because the nostalgia and everything about it, and owning it. When you own something, and people can't take it, you just have it. Yeah.
Okay, a couple more. Major or independent?
Independent.
Yeah.
Yeah, independent with some major backing. I guess I'll say that because. The major is good, but there's stuff that is not that good with the major. But independent, you're doing your own thing, and you work your own project, and nobody can tell you yes or no. You just kind of do it. But then you need the backing of like some type of backing, and then you can go and and then you can push it out. But then also people they're not in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, Nicki Minaj or Remy Ma?
Boy, these are some good randoms. Nicki Minaj or Remy Ma? Remy Ma, because I'm a artist first and I'm a lyric person, and I always listen to lyrics. But then I would say with Nicki, she's got good tracks. Like, you know, like it's undisputable. Like, she's got tracks that, whether it's your guilty pleasure or not, you're listening to them. Like, you know, everybody.
Yeah, I still love that monster verse to this day. I think Nicki's delivery with Remy's bars is the ultimate female.
That would be dope. Because you can imagine, if you're in like a club and Anaconda comes on, everybody's looking to see who's dancing and what girl is dancing right to Anaconda.
Exactly.
You know, so you like that. But then when Remy Ma... then when Remy Ma comes in, then, you know, it's one of those tracks where, like, you know what, it's you know this because you know, you're from Toronto and everything. It's like, you know, like when the lights go on or they try to kick you out the club. Yeah. That's when they just drop the tunes. Like, so, like, you know, like at like 2:30, the lights are going on, they're kicking everybody out. But then someone like I started from scratch, they're dropping only fire tunes.
Yeah, the most unheard of like exclusives.
Yeah, or even like, remember when, what was his name? His name Avalanche, you know, I ain't never scared.
Yeah. Bone Crusher.
Bone Crusher. Remember when that tune was something, like that would be a tune that you wouldn't hear until 2:30 in the morning when they're like, oh, party's over. And they drop I Ain't Never Scared, or they drop Who Shot Ya, or they drop, you know, Wu-Tang, or they drop whatever. And those are the tunes that they drop when it's like, and I used to tell this when I go to like small towns and whatever, and we do shows, and it's getting late, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to leave. And then I'm like, you know, like when as soon as you tell them what the time to leave, especially when there's like a Toronto DJ or even a big city DJ in their town when they're doing, I'm like, as soon as you turn the lights on, like, these guys are dropping the biggest tunes ever, and no one's going anywhere. Yeah. Like, you literally have to, like, the owner has to go up to the DJ and be like, yo, like, last song. He's like, okay, and they still squeeze one more in. And, you know, yeah, so that's where the difference between Nicki and Remy Ma is, because Remy Ma, you just love the lyrics. Like, you know, I'm a hip-hop guy, I love the lyrics, but Nicki got some tunes, but Remy Ma, like, you know, yeah, when you hear All the Way Up or feel, you know, looks like I've been cooking or something like that comes on, and you're just like, okay, I gotta listen to this, right, you know, so.
Nice. All right, thank you again, fam, for doing this. Choclair, Mac in the morning. Where can the people reach you? Where can they find you? What do you got going on now?
They can reach me on Instagram. Everything is Choclair Official. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter is Choclair, Facebook is Choclair Official. It's just not.